Hello, and welcome to the Omphalos Cafe. For some time I've wanted to do a video on one of my favorite books, a book that occupies a place of honor up on the very topmost shelf here at the cafe. One that is both an extremely challenging read and a challenge to pretty much everything we hold sacred and true in life. The book I'm talking about is James Joyce's Ulysses. Before we get started, I'd like to say a word or two of caution. The Omphalos Cafe is not for everyone. Everyone is welcome, of course, but it's up to you, the visitor, to decide whether or not you are ready for what goes on here. Talking about James Joyce's Ulysses, I once wrote a post on my blog at omphaloscafe.com titled, "Bloom's Day is for the masses, Dedalus Day is for the few," which kind of sums up where we're coming from here at the cafe. Bloom's Day, of course, being June 16th, the day in the year 1904 when the events recounted in Joyce's monumental work take place. A day anyways, when the lovers of Joyce's works gathered together around the globe and quaff a pint and celebrate all things Ulyssian. But who celebrates Dedalus Day? No one, as far as I know, which isn't surprising because actually I coined the term. Anyway, that's my word of caution. Here at the cafe, when June 16th rolls around, we celebrate not Bloom's Day but Dedalus Day, and it's definitely not for everyone. Now you might ask, Bloom's Day? Dedalus Day? What's the point? And what's the difference? And I'll answer with a quote directly from Ulysses, the second to last chapter, or episode, when, after all their peregrinations, their solitary travels in and around Dublin, solitary being the key word here, folks, because these two men, Bloom and Dedalus, are amongst the loneliest characters in fiction you'll ever encounter. That is, until they meet and form a budding friendship and towards the end. But anyway, the quote goes, "What two temperaments did they individually represent? The scientific and the artistic." That's it. Bloom's Day celebrates the rational, the reasonable, and consequently learning and scholarship that has grown up around Ulysses is largely reveled in the rational and reasonable. Aside from Joycean linguistic flourishes, it's relatively easy sledding. But Stephen Dedalus, now there's a entirely different kettle of fish. The artistic temperament, the God-intoxicated man, or young man in this case. How can scholarship, learning, rationality ever deal with that? It has to do with the divine wonder and mystery lying at the very core of life. I've two quick quotes to illustrate this crucial point, one by a Westerner and one by an Easterner. The first is, "The intellect is characterized by a natural inability to comprehend life." That's from French philosopher Henri Bergson, his amazing Creative Evolution, published in 1907. And the other quote is by Dr. D.T. Suzuki in his Living by Zen. He wrote, "The Satori plane can never be reached by the rationalistic plane, however ingeniously it may be handled." That is, without insight, without Satori, as Suzuki would say, without whatever it is that lies at the core of the artistic temperament, scholarship will always be an outsider at the party, locked out and unable to peer through shuttered windows. But that's precisely what we do here at the Omphalos Cafe. In celebrating Dedalus Day, the artistic, mystic, poetic, shamanic, whatever what you want to call it, temperament, we gain access to the mysteries, the wonders at life's core, Satori. So, without further ado, and from that Dedalus Day point of view, I'd like to share with you my 10 biggest misconceptions hindering the reading, understanding, and enjoyment of James Joyce's Ulysses. I'll start off with a couple easy ones. At number 10, James Joyce is never ever willfully, intentionally obscure. He is having a great deal of fun, but contrary to what many seem to think, he is not playing games or purposefully fashioning puzzles for future generations of academics to unravel. I will say this, however, because of the nature of the book, it doesn't readily reveal its mysteries on the first pass. Read it twice, read it 3 times, and I promise you it will open up before you. Ulysses is more than anything a grand and wondrous meditation upon all life. As we grow and mature, it blossoms out before us. Alright, that was pretty deep. Let's move on. Number 9. Ulysses is as much about language and style at least language, in the English literary sense of the word, as Michelangelo's David is about marble, or Beethoven's Fifth is about taut strings of steel vibrating above or within a resonant wooden box. Well, that one should be self-evident. Unfortunately, from a Bloomish sort of point of view, it's usually forgotten. Which leads me directly into number 8. One does not need to be an academic, be studying literature, or aware of literary trends, movements, modernism, interior monologue, or anything of the sort to understand and enjoy Ulysses. Plain and simply put, James Joyce had no use whatsoever for scholarship and literary criticism, folks. Once even remarking, only half humorously, "I wish they would just talk about turnips," when he was forced to listen to several literary types doing their thing. It's a very Zen comment, that, talking about turnips quote. Okay, number 7. A passing familiarity with the city of Dublin is not a prerequisite for understanding and enjoying Ulysses. Now, whereas Dubliners are justifiably proud when it comes to a native son and their city that plays such a prominent role in his works, the truth is, Joyce used Dublin because he needed a city, and Dublin is the city he knew most intimately. So, where are we now? Number 6. Okay. Number 6. It's getting a little tougher here. Stephen Dedalus is not exclusively bitter about the recent passing of his mother. He is not a pretentiously brooding would-be philosopher or intellectual, and he is most definitely not a teacher or professor. So if he's not those things, who is Stephen Dedalus? Well, it's pretty simple. He's James Joyce, age 22, 10 years before the beginning of the writing of Ulysses. Brooding, mother-haunted intellectual? No. He is the consummate artist, but he is yet to discover the key to all life, the Satori, if you will, that he is really searching for. And I'll tell you another thing, he will discover that key before the end of Ulysses, which is a truth that lies at the book's very core. Anyway, there's a great little scene at one point when Dedalus' former friend Mulligan and a guy named Haynes are discussing him over a beer. Of course, they can't fathom what lies at the heart of the artist Stephen's struggles. At one point, Mulligan sneers, 10 years! He says he's going to write something in 10 years. I can't do an Irish accent, so that's going to have to serve. And Haynes, the English literary type, replies, "Seems a long way off, still. I shouldn't wonder if he did after all." 10 years. From 1904, when the events of Ulysses take place, to 1914, when he began writing Ulysses. That's beautiful. That's pure James Joyce. And it's right in the book. Okay, so let's move on. Number 5. Bloom is not Jewish, and he is far from ordinary. That's right, folks. Bloom is not Jewish. Don't believe me? Well, then listen to Bloom himself talking to Stephen in the cabman's shelter. He says, "So I, without deviating from plain facts in the least, told him his God, I mean Jesus, was a Jew too, and all his family like me, though in reality I'm not." That's what Bloom says, though in reality I'm not. It's right there in the book. Anyway, number 4. Bloom is not Jewish, just as Stephen and Molly are not Roman Catholic, or indeed, strictly speaking, Christian. Now this was serious stuff 100 years ago, folks. Blasphemous, outrageous, unheard of. But it is key here. Bloom, Stephen, and Molly do not belong to any organized religion. What are they then? Well, they're moderns, I suppose. And maybe, just maybe, their religion, life, hasn't taken shape yet. Even to this day. Wow, that's pretty deep stuff, so we better move along. Number 3. Oh, this one's a good one. Number 3. Molly, Bloom's wife, is not betraying him, nor cheating upon him, nor being unfaithful to him with the dandy Blazes Boylan. What, I hear you say? Not cheating on him? Not being unfaithful? And the answer is no. Molly Bloom is a 33-year-old woman in the prime of life and the pink of health, and her and her husband have not had sexual intercourse for 10 years. She is not being unfaithful to Bloom and taking on a lover. She is being faithful to life. I'll say it again because it's very important. She is being faithful to life. All right, hang in there. We're nearly done. Number 2, a working knowledge or understanding of Shakespeare's Hamlet is not a prerequisite for understanding and enjoying Ulysses. This one goes back to the scholarly literary thing. Don't bother with Hamlet, it just doesn't matter. And the principal relationships between Bloom and Dedalus, unlike the relationships in, say, Hamlet and Homer's Odyssey, is not, I repeat, not one of father and son. Which leads me directly into the number 1 biggest misconception hindering the reading, understanding, and enjoyment of James Joyce's Ulysses. Number 1 is a working familiarity, knowledge, understanding, or even awareness of Homer's Odyssey or the Latinized version Ulysses is not a prerequisite for the understanding and enjoyment of James Joyce's Ulysses. Now let me repeat that, because you're probably asking yourself if you heard right. That's what everybody else says, isn't it? It's all about Homer's Odyssey. Anyway, my number 1 misconception is a working familiarity, knowledge, understanding, or even awareness of Homer's Odyssey or the Latinized version Ulysses is not a prerequisite for the understanding and enjoyment of James Joyce's Ulysses. Folks, this one's been done to death. James Joyce himself, years later, regretted what he called the over-systemization of Ulysses. That is, his overly rigorous adherence to a system involving things like senses, organs of the body, books of Homer's Odyssey, and almost countless others in crafting each of the separate episodes. Try not to be taken in and lose sight of the forest for the trees. If, in the course of the book, Bloom, like Homer's Odysseus, is on his way back home to Molly, his wife, Dedalus, Telemachus-like, is in no way waiting for or seeking out a father figure. The parallels between Joyce and Homer break down and can only serve to muddle and confuse us to what is really taking place. Don't fall for it. And there you have it, my 10 biggest misconceptions hindering the reading, understanding, and enjoyment of James Joyce's Ulysses. There's no question the book is a challenge on many different levels, but the rewards are there, and they are not just literary and intellectual. Like I said, more than anything, Ulysses is a vast meditation on all life. The rewards, if we are up for them, are living, breathing, life-enhancing rewards. Dare I say it one last time? Satori? So, that's just about it. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. Thanks for visiting the Omphalos Cafe. Perhaps next video, now that I've pulled the rug out from under many of the most glaring misconceptions when it comes to reading Ulysses, maybe next video I'll give you my tips for tackling it. Anyway, I frequently ended the Omphalos Cafe posts on my blog with the simple phrase, "Life is all there is." And I wonder sometimes if that simple little phrase is more true than we're capable of fathoming. Life and the works of James Joyce, Ulysses in particular, are simpler than we think and even imagine them to be. We'll see you next time, folks. All the best. Thanks for watching.